All right, looks like we're live and ready to go. So hello, everyone. Thank you for joining today's presentation. My name is Olivia Burns. I'm the Education and Engagement Fellow for Clark County's Department of Environment and Sustainability. We are excited to welcome Sarah to our All-In Sustainability Leaders presentation series, as she will share her insights on Las Vegas Livestock's operations and reducing food waste. Before Sarah begins her presentation, I'm going to go over a few tips to enhance your presentation experience. There are multiple ways you could use public input. If you have difficulties viewing or hearing the presentation at any time, please refresh the meeting page. The entire meeting page and live audio can be translated into any language by selecting the Translate button and selecting from the drop-down menu. Viewers may call in to hear audio by dialing the 855 number. You may also leave voicemail comments on that 855 number. Another way to interact is by putting comments and questions in the chat on the right or bottom of the meeting live stream, and we will review those at the end. This presentation is being recorded and will be available at the All-In Sustainability Leaders Program webpage, which you are viewing on right now. And now I will happily pass it over to Sarah from Las Vegas Livestock. Thank you.
All right. All right, so I'm here to talk about our farm known as Las Vegas Livestock. We are primarily a pig farm, but we do have some other animals as well, including chickens, goats, sheep, and some cattle. So a little bit about me. I was not born and raised in Vegas. I grew up in New Mexico, and I wasn't involved in agriculture growing up. I just did things like 4-H and other activities that kept me close to ag, but I was not raised on the farm. I just spent a lot of time at RC Farms, which is our original family farm that was located on North 5th and Ann. So if you've been in Vegas for a long time, you might remember where that was with all the bamboo and the smell is probably the most memorable thing. And I spent a lot of summers helping out my cousins and my uncle on my grandfather's farm. And I really grew to love agriculture, and I knew that I wanted to be involved with animals and livestock agriculture in some way. So when I went to college, I went to Colorado State and majored in animal science. I also pursued my master's at Colorado State in animal science as well. And when I graduated, right when I graduated with my master's, my uncle called and said that we were going to be moving our RC Farms operation concept, moving it up north and kind of rebranding a little bit. And that's how I started on the journey to become farm manager of Las Vegas Livestock. So I moved out from Colorado to Las Vegas and started building what's now known as Las Vegas Livestock with my uncle, Hank Combs. So we're pretty well known for our recycling. So I'll just go through the whole overall view of how our farm is operating. So as you know, we're taking a food waste product. So that means a couple of things. It can be as simple as table scraps, but it also includes things that don't meet the standards for human consumption. So something that may not have been stored properly, something that has contaminants in it, things that are expired, things like that we're going to be taking in. So we collect those at the casinos. We also collect from warehouses and stores. And those are collected and brought to our farm. So I like to say there's 3 main ways that we receive food waste. So one of the picture that you see right here with the Republic truck, that's one of the ways. If you ever see one of these pink boxes on the highway, that's a casino food scrap food coming to our farm. That's going to be more of like a mixed ration. So it's going to have everything all mixed together in a big soup already. The other way that we're getting it is from warehouses and stores, and that's actually coming as a palleted product on a box truck, and it has a lot more waste associated with it because there's a lot of packaging. Typically it's still packaged or in a box or in some sort of bag, and so we'll get into how we deal with that as well. And then that food gets processed and goes to our hungry pigs. On our little circle, we have a side area too here pointing to compost. That is a byproduct that pigs make for free and that we use as well. So it's another nice part of the recycling and sustainability of our operation. In the background, you can kind of see our farm is located. We're right next to the Republic landfill, and that's why you'll often see them carrying our pink boxes. We are in a partnership with them, and we are right next to them, so they're our neighbor. So if you're ever heading out north on 15 headed to Utah, we're that direction past the Speedway. So a little bit about the food waste problem. I think everybody knows that it is kind of in the spotlight now about how much food is wasted, particularly in the US. So they say about 40% of its food is going to the landfill or wasted in some form, which is about 160 billion of food every year. So it's a huge problem, and when it's thrown in the landfill, it creates methane gas while it's decomposing, and it's just not being used for anything productive. It's just taking up space, and it's producing harmful gases for the environment. So we consume about 60% of the food, waste about 40%, and that is about 20 pounds per month per person. So I think that gives kind of like a good visualization of how much we are actually wasting. Now, we're not collecting obviously all this food because we're in only one city, and we're obviously not collecting from individual households, so we're just collecting a percentage of this. We like to talk about the EPA's food recovery hierarchy. So when they're addressing this problem of food waste, this is the most preferred to least preferred ways to deal with food waste. So you can see at the top, there's source reduction. So that's just making sure that you're not buying too much food. As a restaurant, you're not over ordering and then having to throw out because you're not able to, sell your product. Obviously, that's the most preferred so that we don't even have to put in the energy to create this food. Right after that is feeding hungry people. So that's going to places like 3 Square. A lot of our casino partners, as well as warehouses and stores, also have an outlet for this where they're taking food that's still meeting those standards for human consumption and donating it to food banks so that it can reach hungry people. But we all know there's still some waste after that. Sometimes it can't get distributed where it needs to get distributed in time. And sometimes it's just not safe. Just because somebody's hungry doesn't mean that they have to eat food that isn't going to meet the standards for consumption here in the US. So right after that is feeding animals, which is what we do. And we like to point out that this is above composting because I think everyone thinks like, oh, composting is so easy, but feeding to animals is a way that is just a more preferred way to get rid of that food waste because it's re-entering the food cycle, if you think about it that way. In composting, it may re-enter the food cycle, but it's going to take a lot of extra steps, which means a lot more resources, time, water, money. And so that's why feeding animals comes third on that list. So we have a sister company, Combs Brothers, that actually handles most of the food pickup, which thank goodness, as a farm manager, I don't think I could also be coordinating all the efforts to pick up the food. So they're the ones that are working with accounts, working with stores, going around and picking up food. If you ever see that big blue truck out with the Cones Brothers logo on the side, that is also coming to the farm. So food scrap feeding is not necessarily a new concept. Actually, in a lot of third world countries, it is still extremely practiced widely by livestock producers because it is a little bit less cost and it takes less resources to feed livestock this way. It was around World War II in America that it started going out of favor as the rations started increasing in the country. And we also saw a huge change in how our livestock in our country is produced. And that's when pigs and a lot of animals started transitioning to a more corn and soybean fed diet. But it has been this way for many years. Many speculate that's actually how pigs first got domesticated, was by eating scraps that hunter-gatherers would leave behind at their camps. So it's kind of a very old practice. Here's a picture of our cooking system when we were building it, and I can get into that later, but you'll see this ramp up here on the, I believe it's the right-hand side if you're looking at your computer screen, hopefully. And that's where actually those boxes are going to go up to dump and then enter the system. So over here on the left is that system. That blue part that you see is where the raw food will get processed. It'll then funnel into this gray kind of circular machine that you see with a chute coming off to the left. We call that our depacker. And I can get more into why that's so important for our system. But I would like to note in the back, you'll see those two gray cylinders with yellow like things on them. Those are our cookers. So in order to legally feed food scraps to our pigs, we have to follow the guidelines of the Swine Health Protection Act. And that means that we have to cook our food at boiling point for a half hour. And this just helps keep the risk of foreign animal diseases down. So anything that can be transferred from animal products to our pigs, it's going to kill those bacterium, as well as things like E. coli. So it's just a way to sanitize as well. And over here on the other picture is our feed truck. So the feed is very liquidy. Most of the food that we get is a very high percentage of water, as most food is. And so I like to describe it as a sort of like a very watery oatmeal consistency. There's definitely chunks in there, but our machine does a good job of blending it up so the pigs aren't too picky. Before, when we weren't using this specific process, some whole foods would get through there, and the pigs are kind of picky, like they don't want to eat the rinds of the fruit or little things like that. So in this system, it grinds it all down so that they're consuming more. And they do love the taste. People always ask, what their favorite food is. Right now, we are collecting from an ice cream facility, and I would have to say that that's their favorite. Pigs have a sweet tooth, and they're omnivores, just like humans. So they're going to be able to eat anything we're going to eat. Another thing I'll address is, yes, that does mean that they do consume some pork. This is technically natural, as they also do this when they're living in the wild. But all in all, it's a small percentage of their diet. They're mostly getting carbs and vegetables with a little bit of that protein. And they're getting a variety of animal proteins, a small percentage being pork. And there is no danger, like there is for other species that are not omnivores when they're consuming an animal product. This is kind of an overview of what our farm looks like. So it's an indoor, it's an all outdoor system, but we have an indoor area that provides shade. So obviously we deal with a lot of heat during the summer, and we want to keep them as cool as possible. So pigs don't sweat. So the way that we keep them cool is providing shade that they can be in 24/7. And we also have a sprinkler system that's going to be turned on manually and water whenever we notice that they're getting warm. You can see this is a picture of actually some pens that have been actively used and pens that haven't. So you can see how rich of a product that they're producing through their waste as well. So this is an overview of one of our pens. Our pigs do live on what's known as a deep bedded system. So that's that kind of dark dirt that you see there. We actually get a pre-composted material from terra firma and spread that out, and they live in it. And it's really great because they're able to live in this big group like this, because when they're able to express their natural behavior, which is rooting in the dirt and wallowing in the mud, they are less aggressive towards each other. So we're actually able to put 600 pigs in a pen, and they all live together without, fighting, and comfortably, and they're very social. So they prefer this as well. So you can see they're all interacting and hanging out, and they love it. And they also have the access to the outdoor area. They don't use it much in the summer, as you can imagine. But when it cools down in the fall or the winter, they'll be out there catching the sun. This is a picture of what our feed floors look like. It is the only concreted area that we have, and that's just because of how much wear that it's getting. We didn't want it to get pitted out, and we want to be able to clean them. We do clean them weekly just to keep them, as clean as they can for their food. This is where they also drink water, so you can see those little pipes coming out over the feed. They just bite down on those, and that's when they'll release water. It's basically exactly like the teats of a mama pig, so they are very natural. They catch up right on how to drink. Pigs are extremely smart. On the left hand side, our pigs, we're a feeder to finish operation, so that means that we get pigs at a feeder size, which is around 60 pounds. So that's what you're going to see on the left hand side. That's about how big they are when they enter the system. We like to get them at this size because they are coming from an indoor environment to an outdoor environment, so it helps if they're a little larger. That way they just handle the transition better to adjusting to a more natural environment. And then on the right hand side, those pigs are pigs that are getting ready to be shipped. So they're going to be around 250 pounds in that picture to 280. That's the weight that we like to ship them at. And most of our pigs go to California, to about 2 processors there that are going to use them and sell pork. This is our chicken area. So our chickens also do eat food scraps. Chickens are also omnivores. If you think about it, they eat, a forage like a grass or greens, but they also eat insects. So they're also able to process the feed that we have, and we feed that, but we do supplement it with brewer's grain, more of a grain product specifically for our chickens. And we are doing a laying hen program. So we sell the eggs from our chickens. And this is what the coop situation looks like. So we have about 300 chickens in this coop, and they have a lot of space to run around this indoor area where they lay and that whole outdoor run. And additionally, we do let them out to run and grab all the insects around. This is what the inside of our chicken coop looks like. And some of our eggs. So we do have an egg delivery service that we do around Las Vegas. Right now, we're mostly doing it in the north because that's where we're based. So we do have spots open up in that occasionally. And right now, because of the great weather, we have a surplus of eggs. So if you are interested in ordering eggs, you can also order them on our website, and they're delivered straight to your door just as an order. Our egg delivery service is bi-weekly. So that's the difference there, is that you would be signing up for a specific amount to come bi-weekly on the egg delivery service versus just buying them at a one-time rate. So I'll talk a little bit about the byproduct that the pigs make now. They're compost. So like I said, we get that pre-composted material from terra firma. So that's just going to be yard clippings. We get a lot of palm trees shredded up, and things like that. So that's it kind of looks like that picture from the yard over to the right. It's pretty, dry. It doesn't have a lot of nutrients, and it's large. It's very, has a lot of like sticks in it and things. The pigs, they're super good at breaking this down. They love to chew on bedding. They love to root through it. They're using it. They're laying on it. They're walking on it. It's breaking that down to a much finer material. So you'll see at the end there, it's kind of that finer, definitely more moisture in it. It's able to hold more moisture now that they've used it. and you can see it's broken down a lot smaller. So this is kind of looks like when we put it in. We usually put it in when there's no pigs. In this specific instance, we had it. And this is what it looks like when it comes out. It's a much finer material over here on the side. Grew some tomatoes in it. It's very nutrient dense. They add a lot of nitrogen to it. And currently we are selling it to Heiko Hay and Cattle. I think they're known as Cannon Ranch now. And they are spreading it on their alfalfa fields to help supplement and provide nutrients for their alfalfa for their cattle. So it's going back to food production. I'll just briefly go over some things that COVID-19 changed because people usually ask. The casino shutdown did affect us and we had to seek out alternative food sources. But that is really where our new system came in. So back to this picture, that blackish gray thing on the left-hand side is what is known as our depacker. And we are actually able to use that to remove any non-organic materials. So any plastics, glass, metals, straws, whatnot from the food. It's basically like a big sieve with a couple paddles in it that push through the food through the holes. And anything that's not going to go through that hole, like a hard plastic or a piece of cardboard, is going to come out a trash chute. So this new equipment and this new way of processing our feed and getting all that waste out really, really helped us through COVID-19. And some of the changes for the better is that we actually did start, our egg delivery program, and we also started providing local pork. So if you're interested in looking at what our pork looks like, you can always head to our website, lasvegaslivestock.com, where we sell our cuts, and you can order them and they'll be delivered to your door. Here's some of the products we've made with them. Oops. And then if you're interested in following along, I post a lot of educational stuff about farming, ag, and specifically food waste as well on our Instagram and our Facebook. So our Instagram is at @LVL_farm. And on Facebook, we are Las Vegas Livestock. I think that's oh yeah. And I think that is all. I was trying to keep it in the 20 minutes.
Yeah, thank you so much, Sarah, for sharing all about Las Vegas Livestock and your insight and expertise, and also your different sustainability practices and local food here. It's very fascinating to see the depackager that Sarah was talking about. I've seen it in person. It's really neat to see how the items could be separated from food from packaging. And now we will review some of the audience questions. So let me pull those up. All right. The first question is, how many pigs can the farm hold? And is there enough food scraps to feed the maximum capacity?
Yeah, so our farm can hold about 5,000 pigs, just slightly under at full capacity. There is enough food scraps currently. Obviously, during COVID-19, we downsized because we kind of saw that we were going to be receiving less. But we are back to full capacity now, and we do have enough food scraps. We process about 30 tons a day of food scraps, and we are able to keep up with that. There's kind of an ebb and flow, but we have storage solutions for processed feed so that we're able to, meet the needs day by day.
Great, thank you. And what is your favorite part of your job?
My favorite part is the baby animals, because we do breed our goats and our pigs occasionally. So we just had a litter of pigs the other day. So that's my favorite part.
Oh yeah, baby animals bring so much joy.
Yeah.
And then next question is, how does the extreme summer heat affect the livestock, workers, and overall operation?
Yeah, so I like to say that the heat is like our worst enemy and kind of our best friend. So obviously it is a little bit difficult to work in. and it can be harmful to livestock. So we mitigate that by having our water systems in place. We have misters for our chickens and our goats and cattle. And then for our pigs, we have a sprinkler system, and that's able to cool them down. And we're on our hottest days, we're probably running that every 10 to 20 minutes. So every 10 to 20 minutes, those systems are going off, getting some coolness in the air. And obviously the mud helps cool the pigs down as well. So we have adjusted pretty well, but in another way, the heat is really good for us because it minimizes that risk of disease. So most like bacteria and viruses love to live in like a wet climate. So we don't have to go through and like wash down every surface when we have pigs leave and put new pigs in. We just let the sun basically disinfect it. So we'll just leave it empty for a couple days. It's such a high heat and such high UV rays that we're able to disinfect it. And so we kind of built our system to work with it and help us in that way.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing about the sanitization. That's interesting. You wouldn't think about that, but yeah, it does come into play.
Yeah.
Does the farm host events and tours?
Yeah, so we actually did our very first public event this April, where we did an open house and had farm tours where we drove everyone around, and it was a really good time. So we want to do it again. So we're hoping to make it a yearly thing. Obviously, we're trying to avoid the extremely hot summertime. So we'll either be doing it next spring or fall. And we might look into expanding other events as well, but that's something we kind of just got into. So if you follow us on social, keep your eyes peeled. We do offer tours as well, but we offer them by group. So if you have like a Girl Scout troop or a 4-H club or like some sort of group that you would like to schedule a tour, you can always reach out through our website page. There's an inquiry, but we do like to do large groups just because of the time that it takes.
Thank you. And then I think you answered this question with COVID, but is there any other trends or disruptions you've noticed in food supply?
Well, so I think like, the buffets kind of went away, which used to be a big source of leftovers, but I think it's hard to notice an actual decrease because there's still big conventions and big catered events that are still providing waste in a similar fashion. One thing I did forget to mention about COVID-19 is that's when we actually took on our goats and cattle, and so they are not omnivores, so we are only feeding them vegetables, and that's because we were getting more vegetable waste from warehouses that had ordered for the restaurant season and now could not supply them. So we ended up getting cattle, goats, and some sheep to take care of the produce because they use it more efficiently because they're herbivores. And we have continued that by helping reaching out to specific vegetable processors or people that pre-chop onion and pre-peel carrots for restaurants and collecting that waste specifically for herbivores.
Is the goat and cattle feed process like heated up too, or is it just like the raw vegetables?
Yeah, no, in that case, it won't need to be heated up, mostly because of how quickly those vegetables are going to be getting to our farm because they're going to degrade so quickly. So like they'll be peeled and all that waste will be picked up within a couple days of it happening. And then the goats will eat it within a couple days as well. So it's not as high risk. And also because there's no animal products, there's no risk of animal diseases.
Okay. Just a few more questions we have. Do you have to be aware of the animal's nutritional content from the food that is being donated?
Yeah, so you obviously want to make sure they're getting enough protein. Actually, because Vegas is so diverse in what like is served and fed here, their feed has always had enough nutrition that we've never had to supplement it. So we've had it tested like when we first early on started. And it was definitely meeting protein levels that we needed, because that was kind of our bigger concern. And also other nutrient values, so lysines and vitamins. And we kind of just keep an eye on to see if our pigs are growing on track, to see if we're going to need to test again. And so far they've been able to hit normal growth standard marks. And that's how we know that our feed is keeping up to par.
Yeah. And then the last question falls right into the food is, how long does it take for the pig to mature size when you send them off?
Yeah, so pigs grow extremely fast. That's like what they're good at, is just getting big, which is why people make so many jokes about how much they eat, probably. So it takes only 6 months. So they're at our farm for 6 months.
Great, thank you for sharing that. Let me just refresh, see if there's any more questions. I don't think so. Well, again, Sarah, we really appreciate you coming on and sharing more about Las Vegas Livestock. And for everyone watching, you could, of course, follow them on social media to stay updated with them. And if you have any other questions, feel free to put them in the webpage and we'll try to answer those as well. So thank you.
Thank you.